That's the project.
Unlike most other places which have gone noticeably uncrowded ever since Libertad began assaulting random people on the streets, this city street is still as busy as ever. Pedestrians bustle about between rows of shops, restaurants, company offices, and various other business places. There is noise everywhere, but not unpleasant noise. It's the noise of city life, of people carrying on. This area is considered the main business district. If you open a map of Overture, you'll find this street almost exactly at the center of the map. Somewhere around here is MM's R&D center, where Aretha goes to work. I stroll along the street, looking for someplace nice to have lunch. After walking a few blocks, I find a smallish bistro that looks cozy enough and go inside. As I have my lunch, I'm reminded of the time when I was trudging through these same streets, tormented by hunger, looking unsuccessfully for an eating place which my proletariat wallet could afford. Now I'm eating in a bistro in the busiest part of Overture. I guess Franz is right. I am no longer a prole. With my hunger gone, I leave the bistro and, not knowing what else to do as there's still some time before I have to leave for Howard's, take a walk around the city center. Unfortunately, once you've lived in the city for a few years, there's not really much left to see. Maybe I'll go somewhere else. I've only just started looking for an omnibus stop when I bump into someone I know. Commander Woolf, good afternoon.
Oh, it's you. Therese?
It's Elise. That was pretty close, though, I guess.
Sorry, girl. I never try to remember names that aren't important to me.
Well, at least she's honest. She reminds me of Frederick.
Elise, not
I heard he
Therese.
always forgot
It's
people's
not
names,
Elise.
too.
Elise.
Commander Woolf and Frederick were actually similar in many ways. Are you patrolling this area?
Not really. Just wandering around. Do you work somewhere nearby?
No, I'm just taking a walk.
Huh. Who'd take a walk in a boring place like this?
You just said that's what you were doing.
Hey, that's a good point.
This is the first time I've seen Commander Woolf so laid back. Until now, I've only seen her on duty. I guess I have always pictured Commander Woolf as this scary policewoman.
It's funny.
What is?
Do you remember when we first met? You were with Gasung Alijabana, so I thought you were a Libertad member. And then your fake brother came and convinced me that you weren't.
Yes, I remember.
Now he is the one who's in Libertad. The leader, no less. It's too ironic.
Sorry for not telling you sooner.
You had your suspicion, but you weren't sure yourself, were you? You must have been hoping that you'd been mistaken.
Yes.
Hey, are you bothered by what he told you that night? I mean, about how Joff Godwin and MM are evil?
Was he telling the truth?
What do you think?
Lord Godwin didn't comment on that after hearing my story, so it's probably true.
Did he not? I remember he said, "That's interesting."
That wasn't exactly the denial I was looking for.
Joff's like that. He couldn't care less what people think of him.
So what Franz told me isn't true?
Wolf
smirks for a second, but then her face becomes serious.
No, it's true. Everything he told you is true. I know, because I was already a close friend of Joff's when he proposed that bill to Parliament.
She's talking about that bill that Lord Godwin proposed to Parliament about lowering minimum wage in exchange for employers' obligation to provide mana potions to their workforce. Franz said it's the reason why the proles became so poor. Their wages dwindled, while the mana potions they received were only enough to do their work.
But whether or not Joff's proposal was evil is open to interpretation, I guess. What I can tell you is that the bill was proposed to solve a real problem.
A real problem?
Why do you think mana potions are so darned expensive, huh?
Because they're imported from overseas?
Wrong, girlie. It's true that we bring Temuluak, the plant used to make mana potions, from Dweepantara in the east. But that's not why they're expensive. On the contrary, because we practically steal them, they should be cheap. You understand?
Steal?
Well, exactly how we secured Temuluak is debatable, but there's a reason why a Dweepantaran like Gasungalejabana is with Libertad. It's not because he's bored and looking for excitement, I can tell you that much.
I thought you hated Gesung. I never imagined you would sympathize with him.
Well, the funny thing is that through battles, sometimes you come to understand your enemies. Remember when I told you there were no good guys and bad guys on the battlefield?
Yes. A weak smile appears on Wolf's lips, but it soon disappears.
Anyway, mana potions actually used to be very cheap. Not only because their native land was our colony, but also because our government was subsidizing mana potions to stimulate magic research. This was during the early days of magical science, back when magician wasn't yet synonymous with person. But as more people were capable of using magic, a problem arose. Suddenly, every fucker on the street was practically walking with a weapon in hand, and a deadly one at that. Obviously, we don't want to live in a society where anyone can easily murder anyone else. Imagine a rogue magician suddenly going batshit insane in a school and casting fire on any students he sees. Not cool. Now, there's several ways you could minimize the chance of that kind of shit happening. First of all, society self-regulates through social pressure. As you know, suddenly casting a magic spell or just the act of gathering your magic power for no good reason is frowned upon. If you pulled that shit on the street, you could get in trouble, because people don't like it. This has become one of the norms of everyday life, but that alone isn't enough. So back in those early days of magic, there were two things our government did. First was to recruit powerful mages as part of the police force and task them with keeping the city safe. The second was regulating mana potions. Weapons should be expensive, therefore magic should be expensive. The government didn't want citizens to have more mana than what was adequate to make their living and go through their daily life. So they removed government subsidies on mana potions and instead imposed heavy taxes on them. Mana potions became really expensive. People complained, but these regulations worked pretty well. That is, until magic machines were invented, and suddenly they had a problem. There was now a way to improve everyone's life with technology, but they were terribly expensive, not only because the machines themselves were expensive, but also because the mana needed to use them was expensive. Add in the fact that production of magic machines required a lot of mana, and you can see the breadth of the problem. It's little wonder that most of the early magic machine manufacturers didn't do well financially. Now, you might think that the government could have just removed the taxes on mana potions, but they couldn't do that because it reintroduced the problem that the taxes were meant to solve. Of course, the government could have also lowered the taxes instead of completely removing them, which might have worked. But Joff had a better idea. He thought the problem could be solved if people didn't have to buy mana potions themselves. Instead, they'd get their potions from their employers. Meanwhile, the government would waive the taxes on mana potions for legal companies that purchased potions for their employees. Still with me? That way, the government would still be able to control the distribution of mana potions by limiting how many potions a company could purchase tax-free, depending on the company's size and what kind of business it was in. For example, a typical company could only buy 1 vial per employee per day, but a magic machine manufacturer could buy 2 or 3 vials per employee per day. Some special institutions, like the police force and conservatoires, could purchase as many as they wanted, as long as they kept detailed account of their uses. With this arrangement, citizens would receive a sufficient amount of mana potions from their employers, companies could buy untaxed mana potions, but mana potions would remain expensive for any other purposes in order to dissuade people from abusing magic. It was a win for everyone. That's why Joff proposed that bill.
I'm not sure if I get it. but basically the bill's purpose was to give the government control over the distribution of mana potions by shifting the burden of purchasing them from the individuals to the corporations, right?
That's right.
So, it isn't true that Lord Godwin proposed the bill to obtain unfair advantage for his own company?
Of course he did it to obtain an advantage. The fact that it also solved the other problem was a bonus. It was his in. What I'm saying is that the bill did solve a real problem. Whether it was motivated by altruism or selfishness is beside the point. As it turns out, the world is more complicated than that. Besides, more than 20 years ago when Joff made that proposal, he might not have been aware of the problems it'd create for the factory workers. I mean, it's easy to look back at the past, see what went wrong, and assign blame to someone. But when you're in a difficult situation and there's many fucking things outside your control, shit isn't so easy. Take a sorcerer match, for example, especially when it's a team match instead of a one-on-one match. As spectators, people love to criticize the players whenever a mistake's made. What they fail to understand is that when they're a spectator, they have a complete view of everything that's going on inside the hexagonal arena, which the players don't. And in their mind, they don't see why their favorite player didn't dodge right instead of left. They don't see why fire was cast when wind would have been better. Inside the arena, a player can only control his own actions. He can only see what his own little eyes can see at any one time. Running a business or running a country is also like that. Whether you're a member of parliament, a business owner, or just an ordinary employee, you're just one player among many. The difference in the real world is that there are no spectators. Everybody's a player, and nobody has a complete view of everything that's going on inside the arena.
I see. I guess things aren't as simple as we would like them to be. But now that Lord Godwin knows about the difficulties the proles are going through, couldn't he do something?
Well, first of all, there's a matter of whether he wants to do anything. But for the sake of argument, let's say he does. So our question now is whether he can. The main problem is that people often forget this. Joff's not the owner of Magical Mechanical Limited. Not anymore. Not since MM went public. Joff's still the biggest shareholder, but by no means the majority. What that means is that he could propose ideas, but he'd have to convince the board of directors to agree with it before MM would execute it. But for the sake of argument, let's say MM's board of directors agree to help their factory workers. So our question now is how? Unfortunately, there are no easy solutions. If they increased the workers' wages or gave them more mana potions, production costs would skyrocket. Then they'd have to reduce the size of their workforce to bring down costs to an acceptable level, either by making use of more magic machines in the manufacturing process or something else to that effect. Either way, it'd result in hundreds of thousands of unemployed proles, which I imagine would suck for those guys. So there you have it. The consequences of the grand solution. Do you have a better idea?
I know! The government should let MM purchase more potions tax-free so that MM can give more potions to the workers.
Not gonna happen. MM is huge. When you take the size of its workforce and the amount of mana needed to manufacture magic machines, MM's consumption of mana today already constitutes more than half of all overtures. Parliament would never agree to give them more potions.
I see. There's really no easy way to solve the problem.
Well, that's just how it is. Life's a bitch. It never goes the way you want it to, and sometimes it seems like it's trying its best to piss you off. Anyway.
Wolf takes out a chronometer from her pocket, takes a glance at it, and puts it back.
Looks like it's time for me to go. It was nice talking to you, Elizabeth?
Elise!
Right. Elise. Goodbye, Elise.
Goodbye, Commander Wolf. The policewoman smirks again before turning away and leaving. For a while, I just stand by myself on the street. Between what Alana said before I left home and what Commander Wolf just told me, my mind is filled with thoughts again. But they're not the kind of jumbled mess they were yesterday. I feel like I have gained a better understanding of what's going on with all this. This being me, Franz, Libertad, well, this. There's still lots of things I don't understand. Perhaps won't understand, because I don't even know what I don't know. But everything makes more sense now. At least, a little more sense than yesterday. Does it, though? With Commander Woolf gone and no one else to chat with, I resume my aimless walk around the city until a red tint appears to the sky to tell me that it is time to go to the cafe. Once at the cafe, I greet Mrs. Howard and sit at the piano. Outside, the sun has slipped below the skyline. The sky is a quiet, twinkling tapestry of the moon and stars. People begin pouring into the cafe to have their dinner. Chatter fills the cafe while my eyes are fixed at the piano. What should I play today? I know. I'll play that piece. I close my eyes, place my hands gently on the piano keys, and inhale. I exhale, and the piano breathes out music. Suddenly, I am aware that I'm in another world. It's warm like the day, but quiet like the night. There is tranquility, but there is also energy. I feel my body drifting on a surface as vast and soft as white sand on the beach. I look beside me. There she is. The music is smiling brightly, almost shiny, glittering within the white world. I open my eyes while the music is still singing with her saintly voice. The cafe patrons are watching me. Some are staring as if petrified. Heads are turned, forks are suspended above the plates. There is peace on their faces. They're listening to my piano. They're listening to my music. They remind me of Alanis's patients, who listened to my piano while undergoing their therapy. Perhaps like those patients, these people have also come here to have their soul healed. I scan their faces and notice the little details that make them all unique. Yet, in another way, they're also similar. They're not aristocrats. They're not bourgeois. They're not scientists. They're not engineers. They're not magicians. They're not mages. They're just people. They're neither good nor bad. Like Commander Woolf has explained, it's not so easy to determine whether someone is good or bad. Hearing Franz's story made me think that Lord Godwin was a bad person. But now that I've also heard Commander Woolf's explanation, I'm not so sure anymore. Is Lord Godwin good or evil? Or neither? But Franz said that Lord Godwin is responsible for the Proles' suffering. He was so sure of it. Commander Woolf said that there is no easy way to solve the problem with the Proles. But Franz claimed that Libertad's mission is to give the Proles the justice they deserve, and that they could do it. Could Franz be wrong? Is Franz really the evil one?
Wow, that music was amazing. Thank you for such a splendid performance.
Your piano is the reason why I love dining at this cafe. Thank you.
Some guests approached me after they finished their meal to tell me how they loved listening to my piano. I'm glad I was able to make their dinner more enjoyable. Once all the guests have left, Mrs. Howard comes to me.
That was an interesting performance. Symphony in C minor, Adora di Spirito Adolescente. Today was the first time I heard it played on a piano. Well, technically it wasn't a symphony here.
Yes, I rearranged it into a piano piece. That was only the first movement, though.
You're full of surprises. Why do you even have the full orchestral score when there's no piano part in it? You'd need a conductor's score to properly reduce it to a piano arrangement, wouldn't you?
The score, yes. It was given to me by a dear friend. I left the cafe after bidding Mrs. Howard goodbye.
Elise.
At home, Aretha is already waiting for me again.
What animals have the most courage?
Apparently, she has prepared more jokes for me. Fireflies and firebugs are the animals with the most courage.
Yup, that was easy, right? Now, how about this? What animals have the strongest willpower? Ducks, because they go quake, quake, quake.
That was really bad, Aretha. Let's stop with the puns already.
You don't like them?
I don't dislike them, but I think I've heard enough.
Elise.
Yeah?
You know, when Franz and I were still students at the conservatoire, I always found it hard to disagree with him. He was just, well, intelligent. Very intelligent. Everything he said made sense. He could reason his way through anything, and he could prove his reasoning logically. It was like he was never wrong. You couldn't help but believe anything that came out of his mouth. But the truth is, he was not never wrong. I remember back in our freshman year, Franz and I were arguing about combo magic. He insisted that any combo magic spells required 2 or more magicians to cast, which is why they were called combination magic. So, I took out my Fundamental Magical Theories textbook from my bag, showed him the first page of the combo magic chapter, and made him read the very first sentence aloud. A magic spell is considered combination magic if it combines 2 or more magical traits, regardless of the number of casters or the number of invocations required to cast the spell. Once he was done reading, I closed the book again and smacked his head with it.
Smacked his head.
Elise, Franz isn't always right. He's just good at thinking. Sometimes those are 2 separate things. Don't lose yourself over what he said or did.
Franz isn't always right. Yes, maybe Aretha is right. I think Franz is in the wrong this time. I guess that makes him the bad guy. Does it? Does every conflict need a bad guy? Is the antithesis of good always evil? Or could it simply be not good? Maybe Franz is not a bad person. Maybe there's no such thing as evil. Maybe evil is just a label we tack onto any deviations from established norms. In other words, it's just a mental disorder. Unlike Alanis's patience, maybe Franz can also be cured. He deserves to be cured. Okay. I'll do what you did. The next time I see Franz, I'll smack him on the head. And then I'll burn him with fire until his face is all black and smack him again for good measure.
Huh? Elise? This isn't like you.
And I won't stop until he takes off that stupid cloak and apologizes for all the bad things he's done as Amadeus.
Yeah, we've got to punish that idiot. Spank him. Let's spank him until his butt cheeks are red.
Yeah, or we'll cane him.
Whip him. Hang him with ropes and whip him.
Make him stand on the street while carrying a sign.
Drip hot wax from candles onto his skin while he's seated on a wooden pony.
Yeah, and then... What? Why hot wax? Why a wooden pony?
And then whip him some more.
Wait, what's that with the candles again?
And finally, we'll crush them! Crush them both!
What? What is she going to crush? What is she going to crush?
Yeah, we're totally going to crush his spirit and mind!
It takes some time for me and Aretha to stop laughing. Later, I head to bed feeling better than I have in days. What was that?
No idea. There are lots of people outside all of a sudden.
My brethren proletarians!
The proles erupt in wild cheers as soon as they hear the voice, which they seem to recognize. I recognize it too. Franz.
My brothers! I want as many of you as possible to come inside the Conservatoire building. Come! Welcome to the Libertad Stronghold. This is where we take our stand for freedom. With one voice, we shall take back what was taken from us. For liberty! For liberty!
Let's do a project!